Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. I'm kalikaiz and I'm talking about the Pauper Online Trophy metagame. So that is all the decks that got 5-0s in the Pauper Leagues on Magic Online. So let's get into the details. Before we get into the details, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit up the Patreon for sideboard guides if you're interested in familiars, Tron, Poison Storm, that kind of stuff. Remember that this is brought to us by cardmarket.com, the largest seller of Magic the Gathering cards in Europe. So check them out if you want to build a battle box. All right, so what's going on in the leagues? As expected, I'm seeing Affinity getting pretty heavily played in the metagame. Now we seem to have a top 3 decks with kalikaiz, Affinity, and Mono Red. And somehow Mono Blue Terror just holding on beneath that. And then the rest of the decks are kind of a smattering of the things that we usually would see, with Gruul Ponza kind of rising up a bit and Golgari Gardens dropping from the previous week. So why don't we get into the days and see if there's any spice. So on day 1, the top deck was Affinity, with 4 pilots making 4 trophies. And then the second most played deck was Blue X Fae, mostly Dimir Fae. We've got 2 kalikaiz, 2 Mono Red, 2 Goblin Combo, 2 Golgari Gardens, 2 Ponzas, and 2 Rakdos Madness Burn, with 1-ofs for Mono Blue Terror, Dredge, Walls, Mardu Synth, Metalcraft stuff, Mono Blue Fae popping up, a Boros Synth, and a Poison Storm from yours truly. So let's check out a couple of decks. This is the Goblins combo by Besu, and playing pretty much the stock list here. I did try this out on a video, which you can check out on my channel. Here we have a really sweet Boros synthesizer list where they're going full on 20 creatures with this Bushwhacker package. So 4 Galvlast, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Rebirth, 4 Bushwhacker. And kind of just swinging in that way to cheese your opponent as opposed to playing the All That Glitters package. I really think this is a sweet deck, and might try that on the channel depending if people want to see it. We have a Cascade / Hybrid Walls from DB Guild Pact, who is a Magic Online sponsored creator. That's awesome to see. We got that trophy. And then we have a pretty interesting take on Mono Red. And by interesting, I mean they got the Goblin Grenades here for additional reach, but no Galvanic Blasts. They're playing Seal of Fire as other burn, and Mog Raider as a way to make their creatures not die to sweepers quite so much, as well as turn on the Blast Runner constantly. Now, here we have a Grixis Affinity from Luffy de Chapeau de Palha. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but Luffy is basically the de facto Grixis Affinity pilot, the one everybody looks to for lists. So if you're looking for a stock list, this would probably be it. With 12 creatures, 8 Affinity creatures, 2 Kenkus and 2 Krarks, 4 Galvanic Blasts, 1 Cast Down just in case, and then 12 Divinations with 1 random Metallic Rebuke. I like to say that the Metallic Rebuke here is for the psychic damage, because if you get got by it, you're going to be playing around it, and he's only got a singleton. Lots of Pyroblasts and Blue Blasts in the sideboard, with an additional Krark, makeshift munitions, some negates, and a breath weapon. Mono Blue Fairies popped up, and it looks relatively stock, not too much fanciness going on here, but it's cool to see Mono Blue succeeding. And then I was really on a tear with Poison Storm. This is one of my trophies of multiple in the week. Looks like just 2, but this deck looks to poison your opponent with something like Infectious Inquiry and then proliferate them into the ground. I love that deck. Lots of videos of that on my channel as well. An additional pilot from Goblin Combo. We see a Mardu Synthesizer using the Gates package as opposed to the Wildfire package, turning basically all of your little dinky guys into huge threats. And they can play the Blade kind of thing, where they play the Tithing Blade and bring it back with Glinhawk to Tithing Blade your opponent into the ground. On day 2, we have the top deck of kalikaiz and Affinity tied at 3. Mono Red and Blue X Fae and Rakdos Madness Burn all at 2. And 1-ofs for Blue Terror, Gardens, Dredge, Walls, Mono blue Fae, Familiars, Jeskai Ephemerate, and even Elves. So let's check out some decks. This is a 4-color Reanimator slash, really just Dredge, playing not the Circle of the Land Druid, but 4 Rubble Belt Maverick instead, with the 4 Exhume package, which I think is smart. Then on 14 lands, bringing these Conduit Pylons in. And they seem to be trimming on the Acorn Harvest to fit some of these things into the deck. I think that makes sense. This is a Familiars by Jake Helms, who's playing the Seagate Oracle on the ground and Murmuring Mystic, looking to power everything out with Meeting the Minds and go wide in the air with the birds as a win condition. I really like that deck. Here's a mono blue Terror from Mr. Twin, who actually, I think the previous day is the person that got the 5-0 with mono blue. Yeah, mono blue fairies into mono blue Terror the next day. Okay. So they're on 7 Tolarian Terror effects, 4 Delver, and 1 Murmuring Mystic, playing Snaps over Boomerang. On day 3, we see 4 Affinity, 4 Mono Red. So Affinity and Mono Red taking the top slots on that day. Colgate seeming to drop off. We have 2 Goblin Combo, 2 Dredge, and 2 Mardu Synthesizer decks. Then we have a Colgate, a Rakdos Burn, Mono Blue Fae, Jeskai Ephemerate, Elves, Bogles, Poison Storm again, Mono Green Ramp, which was wild, and a Cycle Storm. So let's go through some of these decks. Here we see a Bogles. Looks like they're on Holy Strength. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why you would play this over any other things. Weird. Okay, they must have just ran out of stuff to put into their deck. Huh. They've got the Flaring Pains post board, making Moment's Peace not very good against them. Elves by Lego Cop, playing 11 draw spells, which is quite a lot, and that allows you to go really hard, as well as Tuk Tuk Rebel Fort to just basically 1-turn combo your opponent. Then we have Cycle Storm by Nano MTG. This is the list directly, at least the main, not the same list as Brian Cook, but a variation on it, playing Unearth in the main deck. Putting on 1 Deadly Dispute, it looks like. That's very interesting. I'm interested in why you would want Unearth specifically. I know you can Unearth the Draenei Stinger and go off that way. It's like another way of finishing the game. Maybe that helps them to not have to have the red mana for casting the Draenei Stingers or whatever. And then this deck is crazy. This is basically what I'm calling Mono Green Ramp. It's basically Ponza-less Ponza playing Colossal Dreadmaw. I have never seen Colossal Dreadmaw in a 5-0 deck before. This is crazy. They've got Arbor Elf, Rhyme Tender, and Sculptor of Winter as 8 ways to tap and untap your lands. And they're playing Wild Growth, Utopia Sprawl on all their forests, and then just slamming big stuff and trying to get in with Ram through to end up being their removal spell. Feed the Clan is a sideboard way of gaining life. 1 Weather the Storm. It is cool. On the next day, we have very few decks, actually. 2 Colgates, 1 Affinity, 1 Goblin Combo, a White Weenie, a Walls, Mono Blue Fae, Blue-White Familiars, and Black Burn. So this is your stock kind of mono-white weenie with a bunch of little dinky creatures that get extra value. You can gain a lot of life from Lunarch Veteran, and then you slam in with Guardian's Pledge to win the game after going wide. Over here we have a Black Burn playing the new card Raven of Fell Omens, which says whenever you commit a crime, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. I like that card, it's pretty sweet. And they're playing the Piranha Marsh to ping their opponent. Ping their opponent, and Jagged Barrens to ping their opponent. On the next day, we've got the most successful deck, Gruul Ponza. Yikes. Actually, only 2 Gruul ones and 1 Simic. We have Mono Blue Terror at 2, Walls at 2, and the rest are one-ofs for Mono Red, Blue X Fae, Gardens, Dredge, White Weenie, Orosynth, Bogles, the Ramp deck again, and a Dimir Control deck. So the Ramp deck changed a little bit to be playing 5 colors, so now it shows up as Wooburg, but it is still the same kind of deck, and it looks like they're playing a Guardian of the Guild Pact and Rush of Knowledge in the sideboard. Rush of Knowledge is quite sweet. I think that playing a ramp deck into Rush of Knowledge sounds awesome. So maybe they should move that to the main deck. This is a Simic Ponza, which is the same kind of thing, but they're playing 4 Temporal Spring, 4 Thermokarst, 4 Acid Moss, and then recouping everything with Lorien Revealed. Ugh, scares me. All right, on the next day here, we have 4 Mono Blue Terror as the top slot with 3 White Weenie behind it. And I think the 26th was, or the 25th was the day of the Pauper Showcase. So this is Sunday the 26th. We have 1 Kagate, 1 Affinity, 1 Blue X Fae, a Goblin Combo, 1 Ponza, and then an Is It Terror as well. So I didn't pick out anything specifically from here that was a standout. And then on the last day, bringing it back, Kagate at 5 trophies, Mono Red at 4. We've got Mono Blue Terror at 2, and the rest all 1-ofs for Affinity, Blue X Fae, Goblin Combo, Dredge, White Weenie, Mardu Synth again, a different kind, Blue-White Familiars, Jeskai Ephemerate, Black-White Blade, and Mono Black Control. So this Black-White Blade deck is pretty neat. It's got the Glinthawks and the Core Skyfishers to pick up the Tithing Blade and win with that. A Singleton Omen of the Dead, which you can get back with your Core Skyfisher to continuously get back all your Core Skyfishers. Got Indoctrination Attendant as another way to pick up your creatures, plus it can deal toxic damage, which may or may not matter. A Thorn of the Black Rose as well, and then they've got a random unmake for a Guardian of the Guild Pact. We have Mono Blue Terror from Campo, who has decided to play 4 Boomerang. Also pretty brutal against someone playing Familiars or Chiron. And no Force Spike, but 4 Spell Pierce here, so very clean list, and congrats to them. We've got a Mardu Synthesizer by Mr. Jack. So instead of playing the package of the Gates, they're deciding to play Cleansing Wildfire. And this kind of makes sense into a field of a lot of Kagate, where the Cleansing Wildfire is going to be able to take out that Basilisk Gate. And last but not least, I think, Mono Black Control by True Name Nemesis, a French player who's playing basically Gardens, the same idea, but instead of Avenging Hunter, they're winning with Ill-Gotten Inheritance, which drains each opponent 1 on your upkeep. And 4 Crypt Rats to just continuously loop with a bunch, 2 Campfires to go through their deck over and over and over, run your opponent out into the ground, and eventually win. So we can go ahead and get into here's my chart showing the current metagame for the last week. Kagate and Affinity tied in the top slot. Mono Red just behind in the leagues. Of course, Mono Red is a deck that people really like to play in the leagues. Mono Blue Terror is also quite fast, so it's in there. I'm not sure exactly why it's popping up as a competitive deck, but it is strong. And I think that people playing Boomerang is also having an effect because people aren't necessarily seeing it or playing into it, playing around it. And then if you Boomerang some of the Gates, that's a big tempo swing from the Mono Blue deck. And now before we close, we're going to check out the Pauper Showcase metagame. It was almost, 14% affinity with a very successful win rate from a lot of really good pilots. And then next up was Kuldotha and then Kagates. Pretty similar to the league metagame that we saw. And over here we have the actual challenge metagame from the weekend with affinity at 20%, Kuldotha Red at 15.9%, and Kagates at 9%. But this is showing that there seems to be a top 3 decks here, and I think that that's going to continue. Moving forward, definitely pack your Dust to Dust, which you can obviously get on cardmarket.com. And if you're interested in dusting out your affinity opponents, you definitely would be potentially want to be picking up Familiars, which you can learn in the Familiars Discord or on my Patreon. If you have any questions or you want to talk about Pauper, hit me up there or leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.